Hey, everybody. Real quick, just before the episode starts, wanted to hop on and let you know that before Dan and I recorded this episode, there was actually some severe weather issues near his place. There were tornadoes and people lost power and connection and all this sorts of stuff. But he was still able to make this episode happen. So thank you very much, Dan. We appreciate it. I say all that to say that if you hear some just weird audio issues like Dan and I cutting each other off or some weird pauses, some different audio issues, that's why. I tried our best to edit it up and make it sound as wonderful as possible for you, but just a heads up on that. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will notice that his screen freezes up a few times throughout the recording. But we're still very grateful to Dan for making time for this episode and grateful to you, listeners, for listening. Anyway, hope you enjoy the episode.
Here we go. Daddy's back. He's back.
Yes.
Don't call me Nymphadora.
Albus Percival Wolfric Brown. Dumbledore's got style.
You're just as sane as I am.
It's not tell lies.
Get away from my plot, sir.
I've always felt our futures lay outside the world of academic achievement.
Just because you've got the emotional range of a teaspoon.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Retold, the podcast where I retell you my favorite story of all time, Harry Potter. Every single week, I go through the Harry Potter books 2 chapters at a time, talking about what happens, recapping the events of the chapters, diving into some lore, behind-the-scenes things, talking about our favorite lines and the movie changes, and we also play Harry Potter trivia. But I never do this journey alone. I always have with me some very special guests, and with me this week, I am joined by Dan, host of Hogwarts, a podcast. Hi, Dan.
Hi, hello. Thank you for once again having me on. It's always a blast to be on your podcast, so I appreciate the invite.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. Dan, this is now your 3rd time hopping on the podcast. So I don't have any like returning guest questions after the 3rd appearance. Normally it's just like, hey, how's it going? So I know like for anybody who's new, because in the last few months I've gotten a lot of new listeners, but if you just want to tell us a little bit about your podcast and who you are, I think listeners would love that.
Sure. We actually just celebrated our 5-year anniversary of being a pod.
Woo!
I know. Harry's birthday, July 31st, 2021, believe it or not. So in that time, we've actually gone through all of the primary books. Now we're working on the secondary books. So we've done Cursed Child, Tales of the Beetle the Bard. Now we're currently on Quidditch Through the Ages. We have Fantastic Beasts coming up. So a lot of good things there. And then some other stuff that we're trying. We have a live stream of Hogwarts Legacy that I'm going to try playing soon. That's going to drop, I think it's August 7th, this upcoming Friday. And then we're also going to be at Fan Expo Chicago, which is a really, really cool thing. We're going to stop
Very
by.
cool.
We're going to be interviewing some Harry Potter fans. Since the twins are there, James and Oliver Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping a big Harry Potter contingent comes out to Chicago for that. And we'll just talk some Harry Potter with people. So we're looking forward to that too.
That's awesome. Now with your Hogwarts Legacy stream, is that like a weekly thing you're going to do?
So I've had this dream about it. Being like a Potter Watch kind of setup, where it's like, you know what? To find out when the next stream is, you're just going to have to be there at the end of it. And I'll just drop that then. We'll see how that goes. I might actually have to set it up weekly. But yeah, weekly is probably what's going to happen.
Will that be on Twitch?
It'll be on YouTube. It'll all be for our YouTube
okay.
page, which is, you can find us at Hogwarts a Pod. Like you can find all of our socials. So we're on pretty much everything: Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, all of it.
Well, this episode will go up this coming Monday, so I'll find out when the next one is live and let the listeners know so they can tune into that. But always a pleasure to have you on. Really excited for this. Listeners don't know this, but if you've been around, you know this. Dan is a Harry Potter genius. So we're about to hop into our Quizzitch section where every single week, I have this running competition with me and my guests where I pridefully claim that I know more about Harry Potter than anybody else in the world. So far, I've only been proven right twice. I've been proven wrong twice as well. I keep track of the score every single week, and at the end of each book, we find out who knew more, me or the world. I won book 1 and book 4, but lost books 2 and 3. And every time Dan's been on, he's destroyed me at the Harry Potter trivia. But anyway, all that being said, we got 2 questions from the chapters this week. Dan, kick us off.
Oh boy, you're having me go first with this. Okay.
Yeah.
As you know, since we've done this a couple of times now, I have some easier ones and some harder ones.
As do I.
However, I think I'm going to start you off with what I think might be a harder one.
Wonderful.
So, for Chapter 9, The Woes of Mrs. Weasley, we have this question. Where was the vomiting toilet that Arthur had to go address?
Yes. Oh my gosh. They say it like Bethnal Green.
Yes.
Bethnal Green. Yeah, because they say it like 10 times. And I remember thinking, this is such an obvious question to ask. He's like, if I'm quizzing him, it's something that might come up, but it's also one that's super hard to remember because it's just a short name. Well, very good. Good job, me. All right. And that was a hard question. So yours, let's see, let's do this one. From Chapter 9, what idea does Hermione have for an SPEW fundraiser?
Oh, she was going to have a sponsored cleanup of the Gryffindor common room.
That is correct. Ding, 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 ding. Good job, Dan. 1-1. Not bad.
That was a good one. I like that one.
Yeah. What's your next question?
Okay. So Mrs. Weasley encounters a boggart.
She does.
What is the order of boggart transformations? There are 6 of them.
Right.
There are 6 of them.
Dude, okay. I'm definitely going to get this wrong. So I'm going to, I don't know, maybe if I can name all 6, can I get a half a point?
Yeah, I'll give you a half point for getting all 6.
Okay, because I know it starts with Ron and ends with Harry.
Yep.
Then you got, I believe Percy might have been before Harry as the 5th one. But Percy's in there. Bill, Mr. Weasley, and Charlie?
Final answer?
That's my final answer.
Charlie is not involved.
Oh, no. Was it Fred or Jenny or somebody like that?
Fred and George. They say the twins. The twins. Yeah.
It turns into both twins? No. Well, I get 0 points then. 0 point. What was the correct order, though?
It was Ron, then Bill, Arthur, Fred and George are the twins, Percy and Harry.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, great question. Very good question. This one will be, let me pick one for you now. Let's see. From where did Uncle Algie get the Mimbulus Mimbletonia?
Oh, okay. So I love some geography, as you can tell by the world map. Assyria is where he gets it.
That is correct. Ding, ding, ding.
That one's
as always.
The geography thing. So
yeah. As always, Dan, you come out on top for Harry Potter trivia. Good job. I'm happy that I got at least one right, but very good. So the final score then for this week, listeners, I don't remember. Futureberry will hop back in to tell you the current score as it stands this season and to give you the answer to last week's Quizzitch question and ask you this week's Quizzitch question. Hello. The score, dear listeners, as it currently stands is 9.5 to 9. And your question last week, dear listeners, was where was Harry's hearing supposed to take place? You know, rather than being a full-scale trial down in like the Wizengamot area, where was his hearing supposed to take place? And the answer to that question was it was supposed to take place with Madam Bones in her office. If you got that right, congratulations. If you got it wrong, better luck next time. Next time being right now. Your question this week, dear listeners, is which Quidditch team does the Quibbler claim is corruptly taking over the league? Which Quidditch team does the Quibbler claim is corruptly taking over the league? That's your question for this week. If you want to answer that, you can write into theretoldpodcast@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at theretoldpodcast. And if you want to submit questions for the audience every single week, well, you can, listeners, by signing up to become a patron at patreon.com/retoldpodcast for just $3 a month. You can submit weekly Quizzitch questions, you can watch bonus episodes, and get all other sorts of exclusive content. So check that out at patreon.com/retold podcast. Anyway, back to the show. Thank you, Future Barry. Now, Dan, moving on to our chapter coverages. This is the meat, the main bulk of our episodes. Listeners, if you're new here, the way this works is Dan and I will recap what happens in the chapter, hopefully in a fun and entertaining way. And then afterwards, we'll talk about our favorite lines. We'll talk about transfigurations, which are differences that the movies made from the books. And then we'll get into some golden snitches, which are lore deep dives, behind the scenes things, extra information that you might not have known about when it comes to some of the different things mentioned in these chapters. Do it all again for the next chapter. And then we will have a spoiler section known as the restricted section, also going by the Department of Mysteries in this particular season, Dan. But all that is what is to come. And what's the name of this chapter? The Woes of Mrs. Weasley, chapter 9, I believe.
Yep. Woes of Mrs. Weasley.
Woes of Mrs. Weasley.
Chapter. There's a lot going on in this.
This is such an amazing chapter. I'm so excited to get into this one. In fact, its ending might be like one of my favorite endings of like any chapter so far. Just as like the final paragraph says something really cool. All right, chapter 9, The Woes of Mrs. Weasley. As I said, spoiler, huge fan of this chapter. So the trial is over and Harry's happy, but a little down because he puts up his hand for the high five with Dumbledore, and Dumbledore just leaves him hanging. Just walks right on out of there like, oh man, I thought we were cool. He elegantly leaves the courtroom. I love that moment where he's like staring at Fudge, staring at Madam Bones. I don't know why Umbridge is staring at me, but he slowly leaves. And then as he gets closer to the door, he just sprints and gets out of there. Mr. Weasley had no idea what was happening. Like even Dumbledore apparently just ignored him as well on his way out. And so Harry's like, he goes, what happened? And Harry says, I'm free. I got off on all charges, cleared of all charges. But as Harry's leaving, all of a sudden the rest of the court files out as well, which I'm surprised that they didn't have a separate entrance. You know, like if they went in the same entrance that the accused goes in as well. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, everybody comes on out. Arthur's like, dadgum, that's a bit of overkill. The full court. Some different people say sup to Arthur. You know, you got Madam Bones saying, hey, we love her. A few other wizards. And then a few other people just roll without even saying hi. You know, Percy, what the heck, man? That's your dad. Umbridge stares Harry down. Mind your peepers. That's weird. Anyway, they laugh about the toilet, which was from Bethnal Green. Somebody remembered that in Quizzitch. I love when Arthur's talking to Harry about how like awful anti-Muggle sentiment is. And as they're doing it, it's almost like a looks at the camera type of moment where they're talking about this, and then they run into none other than Lucius Malfoy and Cornelius Fudge.
Nothing shady going on.
Not at all. Not heavily ironic. The clinking of the coins as he rubs out the front of his robes. One of the things that bothered me, Lucius calls Harry Patronus Potter. And I was like, not the most clever name. You know, I feel like this is where Draco gets it from.
Like that's a compliment, right?
You know, it's one of those things that's like, it depends on who says it, you know? I feel like certainly.
Being a 15-year-old kid that can produce a Patronus, thank you.
Madam Bones certainly meant it as one.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what? Maybe we'll take it this time. I really wish in this interaction, I know that Harry's trying to be polite. Like he's taking Sirius's advice from a few chapters ago of like, just be polite. But there's a few moments where I wish he would like fire back at Lucius Malfoy, because there's some easy retorts he could do. Like one of my favorite ones is Lucius says, just because you're Dumbledore's favorite. Like I wish Harry would have fired back with, just because you're Voldemort's favorite, you know, doesn't mean you can get away with X, Y, or Z. But probably didn't want to say that in front of Fudge since he just got lucky in this trial and Dumbledore saved him right at the end. But I thought that would have been a good comeback.
That'd be funny. Those are fighting words.
Those are fighting words. But hey, Arthur Weasley and Lucius have already had a tussle. All right. There's no Hagrid around to keep him safe now. Another one is that, like, so Lucius does try to egg him on a little bit with the escape comment. And I like that Harry's like, oh yeah, I am good at escaping. You would know all about that. Seems to be what he implies there. And I laughed out loud when I heard, like, when Harry returns the question of, what are you doing down here? And Lucius just goes, it's none of your business. It's like, bro, he's just returning the question.
Yeah, that's
you
aggressive.
asked. Mm-hmm. So they leave, and Harry asks why Lucius was down there. And Arthur says, oh, you know, bribery, just some normal government stuff.
As you do.
That's right. Harry asks if Fudge is under the Imperious curse, and Arthur says, nah, he's just his normal awful self. So doesn't make us feel any better, but at least it's not the Imperious curse. Harry dumps all his money in the fountain. I love that moment because, you know, in the previous chapter, he's like, if I get off on this trial, all the charges cleared, I'll donate 10 galleons. And he's forget 10. He dumps his whole money bag in there.
That is a lot. That's a lot of money.
And, you know, I often think, like, there's certain moments that Harry needs to be frugal because he doesn't have a limitless supply. You know, he needs all that money to get him through all his time at Hogwarts. And I just think this might not have been the right decision to make, Harry.
Donating to the ministry. How about you give the 10 galleons to Arthur standing right there?
At least it goes to, I really did think that too, because later in this chapter, you know, it talks about them not being able to afford the broom, or like at least struggling to afford it. At least it goes to St. Mungo's. But anyway, I love the line where Harry goes, so they're back at Grimmauld Place, and I love the line when Harry says, everybody looks quite relieved for people who thought that I was going to get off scot-free. Like, you all, I thought you were so confident. Why are you so relieved now?
That is a good line.
Fred, George, and Jenny have got to chill. They're just doing their victory march. Have you listened to the new audiobooks yet, Dan?
I have not. I can only imagine what this must sound like, though.
It's so adorable. Like, in the background, you just hear them chanting and like in cadence, like a military march kind of in the background the whole time. So yeah, during this whole scene, you do hear that in the new books. Small detail I caught was that Arthur, you know, in the previous chapter, Tonks said that she needs somebody to cover for her tonight because she's just too tired. She was yawning at the beginning of the previous chapter. And I like that, or 2 chapters ago. And I like that they brought that back. Arthur's like, I got to get going because I'm covering for Tonks. It's a good connection. I like that through line. I also liked Harry attempting to, like, show his gratitude for Dumbledore. So throughout this book, especially, there's a lot of moments that Harry's in his head. This chapter, a whole lot. He's in his head thinking about what seems polite or what seems the right thing to do or the moral thing. And here's a moment where he's ticked off at Dumbledore, but he goes, it would seem rather ungrateful if I were to just throw in the line of, yeah, but I wish he would have talked to me when it was all over. So I like that he at least thought that. So the next few days go by, and Harry notices that Sirius may not be as happy as he was letting on. And my note was, he just wants to hang out with Buckbeak in his room. All right, some people prefer hanging out with their kitty cats or their dogs. So Dan, specific question for you, because I found this conversation fascinating, and people in the fandom, like, when I listen to Harry Potter podcasts, anytime they get to a moment like this, they kind of debate it a lot. But let me explain the situation real quick. You know, Hermione brings up what Molly said, and she claims that Sirius might view Harry more like his friend James than he does his godson Harry. And I like, and they debate that for a bit. And I like how Hermione ends it, you know, when they ask her, do you think Sirius is crazy? And she goes, no, I just think he's been very lonely for a very long time. But in this conversation of, do you think Sirius is being unfair or immature? What do you think?
I don't think he's being unfair. He might be a little bit selfish in this moment, but that doesn't mean he's not allowed to be. I think he's allowed to have his own feelings, his own wants, his own wishes. And I think they even mentioned it, that Sirius himself is aware, like, hey, Harry needs to be at Hogwarts. He needs to be somewhere other than this dingy, shady house that I didn't even enjoy, still don't enjoy. And I think Sirius understands that, but he's allowed to feel. He's allowed to have his, selfish wants every now and then, and he wants, you know, is it a little bit of he thinks Harry is James? Possibly. That's an issue, but that's getting into the psychology of Sirius Black, which we can do the rest of this book. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, and that Sirius Molly dynamic, I could see, we can get into a little bit of a Molly side of her points about not wanting Harry as involved and wanting to keep Harry at an arm's distance a little later, and why that might be. But yeah, it's a cool little complicated emotional swing that this book gets into, which is why, by the way, this is my favorite book in the series. And a lot of the reasons for that is you can get deep into the emotions and the psychology of a lot of different characters. And I think that's fantastic that you can kind of dive so deep. But yeah.
Yeah, it definitely levels up in maturity, whereas like the previous book, it was more tonally more mature at the end with what happened content-wise. But this one, I think, as you just said, character-wise, much more mature as we get into the complex emotions of each one. But yeah, I like how you phrase that of Sirius. He's allowed to have his wants and desires, even if they might be a bit selfish. Hermione even points that out of he probably even feels guilty that he feels this way about you, Harry, that he was kind of slightly desiring you to stay. And I don't know, my knee-jerk reaction in these conversations is to want to defend Sirius, but I think, she might have a slight point. I don't think that I'm going to go assume the best and say that I don't think Sirius views Harry as James, but I do think he probably views him a little too much like a friend than he does a godson. Like if you were to put him on a scale, maybe a little too much in that one direction than he should. But I still just love the most. I think my favorite part of that discussion was at the very end when Hermione, it says that she says it very matter of fact or very simply, no, I don't think he's crazy. I just think he's been very lonely for a very long time. She's being very reasonable about it, and kind of like what you said. It's understandable that he would feel this way. So I enjoyed that moment. Anyway, Molly comes in, insults their cleaning skills. I like that she kind of teases them, says, "You've been wanting to help out the order for so long. And now that you finally have something to do, you're not even that good at it." And Harry starts to think, yeah, this is pretty crappy. I want to go back to Hogwarts. A few more days go by, and it's the last day of summer. And guess what, Dan? Book lists are here. Yay! And they only got to get 2 new books this time. I thought for sure that you were going to ask me as one of your Quizzitch questions, what was the Slinkhard book, whether the title or author or both. I thought
asking you what the author was. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I remember before you hopped on, I was flipping through my pages going, what was the name of the book? What was the name of the author? I got to find it. So I would have gotten it right. I promise. Anyway, while Ron and Harry are looking for their lists, Fred and George appear and they chit chat with them about the Slinkhard book because it means that Dumbledore has found a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and the search has been rather difficult. They say just in time, and I like that moment where Harry's counting off on each finger all of the unfortunate things that have happened to each previous Defense Against the Dark Arts professors. But while they're talking, Ron's been silent. Harry turns to him what do you think? And why is that? It's because to everyone's great surprise, Ron has been made a prefect. I love what does Fred say where he's like, Mom's going to be insufferable or something like that.
Such a good reaction because it's 100% dead on right. And it's such a natural reaction
Yeah.
too from a brother. Oh, that's great.
I do feel for Ron a lot in this particular moment. So, and I think we're meant to, because like nobody believes that he should be a prefect. His brothers are in disbelief. Harry doesn't say it, but he definitely kind of shows it. And then it's made even worse when Hermione comes in the room, sees Harry holding the prefect badge. I knew it, Harry. I knew it. And, and Ron's like, no, it's for me. Like my name's on it. And she doesn't say it, but she gives off the vibe of like, are you joking? Like, are you sure? And she doesn't do a great job with the recovery, where like in the text, she has a lot of half finished sentences and just, I mean, well, that's great. Good for you. I also knew that. That would have been the second guess, Ron. I promise. Would have been the second guess.
Didn't sound wrong here though. If it's not Harry, who else would it even be from Gryffindor?
Probably Dean. I feel like Dean stays out of trouble, makes good grades. I think if it's not Harry, I don't think I would have put Ron as the second best one. I feel like both Dean and maybe even Neville might make better grades than him.
Wow, you're going Neville above Ron at this point. Wow.
I don't think they would put. Let me amend that. I don't think they would give it to Neville, because he's not like at least at this point a leader, and he doesn't command a lot of respect.
Like Neville, yeah.
I mean, Seamus in this book, as we'll see, he's a little feisty. So he's even has more, I guess, assertiveness than Neville does, which isn't hard to do. But I do think, I don't know. I guess after Harry, my second choice probably would have been Dean, but I don't know. I like that Dumbledore, at least in this moment, gave Ron a win,
Yeah.
Who would you have given it to if not Harry?
Oh, I would go Ron as my second for sure. He's been Harry's right hand through all of this. So he's been there. He's done that. He hasn't, obviously, like Harry says, hasn't done the exploits that Harry has individually, but he's been there for a lot of the other stuff. So, I mean, that's more than I think Dean or Seamus or Neville can say. I mean, we can reevaluate it at the end of the series, and that's probably a much better conversation. But for right now, I think Ron deserves the 2 spot.
I mean, I completely agree in that. As far as who's done more, certainly Ron has. I mean, he's played the best game of Wizard's chess Hogwarts has ever seen. And you're right, he has been there for Harry every step of the way. He just also gets in trouble a lot, which seems like to be the reason. I mean, that's not the total reason for Harry not getting it. We find out later, but spoiler stuff, listeners. We won't get into it. Anyway, moving on. The twins tease him for a bit, and Hermione, she had her goof up. Molly comes in, and she is in a bit of disbelief at first as well. However, she has a wonderful save. I love, like, it's more just a mom moment. And I love this moment. Like, you'll hear me say this a lot in this chapter. There's so many great moments in this chapter, but Molly doting on Ron, she's so sweet. She hypes him up, gives him a big old hug, says she can, like, that he will get a present. That's everybody in the family. What are we? Next door neighbors. But she gives him a big old hug, says he can have whatever present he wants. And I like in this broom moment, one of the really funny things about it is she goes, like, we can get you a present. What will it be? And she offers him essentially the equivalent of, like, a fish or a new book bag. And he's basically like, what about a pony? That's like, if he were to Muggle translate it, that's kind of where he goes with it. He's like, not a big one, maybe like a tiny horse. I'll take a mini pony. That's what I'll take. I also like how she handles the moment when he says he wants the broom, because it's, she falters a little bit, but she picks herself back up and says, of course, we'll do it. And it just gives me the vibes of a mother who will do what it takes to make her children happy. So it was a very, very sweet Molly moment, and I really enjoyed that. So anyway, everyone clears out of the room, and I really like this next part. Again, I say it like 6 times now, but where Harry kind of reasons with himself. This is probably my favorite moment of the whole chapter, where Harry is by himself and he's taking stock of his feelings, um, what he thinks is true versus not true, and I, the small voice speaking to him and him speaking back. Just a few notes on it. He asks if having this expectation really that he should have been the prefect over Ron makes him as arrogant as Draco Malfoy. So I like that he recognizes that in himself. Like it's just perhaps it was arrogance for me to think this. And then he goes, well, let's evaluate that. He asks if he really is better than Ron, and he goes, I'm really only better at Quidditch, not anything else. Wonderful moment there too, where he goes, just recognizes I'm not a better person, I'm not a better friend. I think really I'm just better at Quidditch. That's about it.
I flagged it as well as just a wonderful spot. I think a lot of people look at this book and they think that Harry is angsty and he's moody and he's temperamental, which he is all of those things for sure. But then you get moments like that where he does have a lot of self-reflection. And being able to self-reflect on what you're thinking and what you're feeling is a really mature concept that I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for. So I think that was a really cool spot for him to just be like, wait, Ron didn't ask for any of this. Why am I mad at Ron?
Absolutely. Yeah, he even says that of like, he didn't ask Dumbledore to do that. So I completely agree. He doesn't get enough credit for it. I've mentioned it a lot in each episode so far this season, the same kind of thing where people point out Harry's angstiness, and some even I've heard it called his insufferableness. But to me, it's very reasonable, and it's made even better through these moments where he's so self-reflective. He also goes like, yeah, I did do more than all of them, but really I just finished the deal. Like they helped me get there. They helped me get to Quirrell. They helped me get through the Triwizard Tournament. They helped me get to the Chamber of Secrets. But he's like, I did finish the job though, which is true. All right. He is honest. I like that. And my favorite, not favorite, but the last bit to say on this particular point is I also like how he even recognizes, like when he laughs at Fred's joke about who would in their right mind would make Ron a prefect. When he laughs at that, he like rebukes himself and he feels bad. He goes, that wasn't right of me to do. I shouldn't laugh at that thought. So anyway, wonderful stuff from Harry. Ron comes back in the room and they start to pack up, and it's really funny how Ron keeps moving his prefect badge all around the room. Let me check it out on the desk. Let me see what it looks like on my robes. How does the black make it pop with the red? I love it. Mrs. Weasley comes in and Ron does not listen to her at all when she goes, hey, you don't have time to unwrap it now. He just waits for her to leave, and then he tears open that Comet 260. I forget which broom it was.
He still got a clean sweep. Clean sweep. A Comet 290.
290. To see, listeners, this is what I'm talking about. He's got this information on lock. Very good. So it's party time. Time to celebrate the new Gryffindor prefects. At one point, Moody comes in and Molly asks about the boggart in the drawing room. Like, hey, Mad-Eye, we've been waiting for you. Is that actually a boggart? And Dan, this is a fascinating moment. I'm sure you've talked about this before, but I wanted like your opinion on this. Do you think Moody, so we know his eye can see through walls and all this stuff. When he sees the boggart in there, do you think he sees the true form of a boggart, or do you think it shows what he is afraid of?
I think there's only two answers here. I think he either sees a vapor-like gaseous form that hasn't really taken a form yet. Actually, I guess there could be three answers. Let me amend that. A weird gaseous form that's not taken a shape yet, his fear, or the boggart constantly rotating through all of the fears of all of the people in the current house. I guess are your three options. Either of which I think Moody would be like, yeah, that's a boggart. But it opens the question of, if the boggart doesn't know what's being looked at, and he can look through walls and drawers and all kinds of things, what would that be? It's like a weird magical loophole.
Yeah, I find it such a fascinating question, and I like your explanation for or your idea of what the true form of the boggart is. Just this like vapor mist sort of thing, just like this non-being entity that we're not even sure what it is. And the only reason that he would know that that's a boggart is, well, having been able to see through walls and stuff before, he might have recognized that. And then when that gas appears, he sees that it becomes somebody's fierce, so it's probably a boggart. But no, oh, I think I like that one as my favorite, that it's the weird gaseous mix as the true form. So I prefer that one. Uh, anyway, they talk about who were, or the different people who were and weren't prefects during their time at Hogwarts. Tonks says, yeah, my head of house, who I think we can assume was Professor Sprout, because she was a Hufflepuff. I don't know how long Sprout's been there, but didn't think I was well enough behaved. They don't mention whether or not Kingsley was a prefect, but I imagine Kingsley was probably a prefect during his time at Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. Sirius was like, heck no, not me, bro. And Harry takes comfort in the fact that James also wasn't a prefect. It was Lupin, and Lupin goes, I did a terrible job though, so probably shouldn't have been me either.
Let the Hermione comparisons continue. If they haven't already, here they are.
So we get a snapshot of everybody's conversations. Hermione's talking to, as you just mentioned, talking with Lupin about, house elf rights, and she compares it to werewolf segregation. And I was like, all right, sure. Okay. And the twins are trying to make a deal with Mundungus. Shout out Kingsley. I love that he thinks Harry should have been a prefect, and he says it would have shown a lot that Dumbledore had more confidence in him if he had done this. Harry just pretends he didn't hear that though. Party keeps going, and Molly heads up to take care of the boggart. And Mad-Eye, my next note, it's very simple. Mad-Eye makes Harry very uncomfortable. So, Dan, what do you think of this moment? Like with him showing Harry the picture?
I think just plainly it's a good move by Moody. What he's miscalculating here is that Harry is going through a lot of emotions, which Moody can't possibly know. He can't.
Yeah.
I can see through them, but he can't hit all of that psychological, emotional stuff that Harry might be going on. And Moody, I don't know. He's not that kind of dude. So I don't know that he can grasp the that Harry is going through at this point in time. So by showing him this picture, particularly emphasizing his parents in it, it's a tough thing for Harry to grasp. And I'm just at this, party or whatever you want to call it, gathering that they're doing. Harry's gone through an emotional gambit, just all through it. Like, oh, this is the best party ever. Oh man, I want to leave. Oh, this is great again. And he's going through a lot. I don't think it's a bad move by Moody. It was just really poorly timed, I think, is the problem.
I agree, because I think, I can appreciate what Moody is doing here, especially like, hey, here's a picture of your parents. You want to be a part of the order. Here's some of the order's history. And you, as somebody who has fought against Voldemort and had sacrifices, you might be able to appreciate what's going on in this photo and the people who have come before you and paved the way to get to where we are now. But Moody he's a war vet, and he probably sees things
to the point.
Yeah, he sees things a little more blunt and clear, like brutish than Harry does. And so
it doesn't help that he's like killed, vanished, killed, and it's like, oh, dude, we're at a party. Let's focus on some positive
That's
vibes.
True. That's true. It's more like a time and a place where it probably wasn't the moment. We're trying to celebrate some people becoming prefects. I don't want to hear how they found just bits of Benji Fenwick or whoever it was that was that's all that they found of them. But yeah, two funny moments in that interaction outside of like all the depressing stuff. One is him like telling the people in the photo, budge up, move along. And they all like shuffle. And then the other funny moment was when he points at himself and he says, "That's me," as if like Harry wouldn't be able to recognize that of all the people in the photo, that particular one was Moody.
I like the acknowledgement, though, even though it's poorly timed, I like the acknowledgement of the people that fought in the first Wizarding War, and names like Benny Fenwick or Edgar Bones or something like that you don't know. This is probably the one and only time you're going to get these names, and you get them. And, this is me being the Harry Potter nerd or whatever, but I love that kind of like lore drop that basically Moody is giving you here. I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, same. I like last week, I remember our golden snitch last week was, at least one of them was Amelia Bones. We're talking about her, and Edgar Bones is mentioned as one of the people that died. And he mentions how like the whole family was killed, pretty much everybody except Amelia and I think one sibling of hers, but everybody else was killed. And it goes to show like the sacrifices that entire families made as well. And I love that lore drop. So anyway, Harry is able to sneak away and head upstairs, and that's when we get the Molly incident. When he goes up there, he hears somebody crying, and he goes in the room and he sees Ron dead on the floor. And I do like, as like traumatic as that is, the logic steps that Harry takes. He goes, at first it reads almost like an, "Oh no, it can't be." And then it's a step back and he goes, "But like it actually can't be, because he was just downstairs. So like what's going on here?" And then we find out that it's the boggart whenever she says ridiculous. And I think it's like a top 10, one of the saddest moments in the Harry Potter series. I would definitely put it as it cycles through her whole family. And I am more so like, if you were to, we don't need to make teams, but if you were to make a team Molly versus team Sirius and all these interactions throughout the last few chapters, somebody like me, I'm a little more team Sirius in some of these interactions. However, this totally gives you a greater understanding of where Molly is coming from.
100% agree. Yes.
Like this is her deepest fear. Like this is what the boggart is turning into, her whole family on the line. And we just heard from Moody, even though it wasn't said who they were to Molly, but Gideon and Fabian Pruitt were both killed by 5 Death Eaters. And so those are her brothers, listeners, if you didn't know that. Those are her brothers. And so to have a second Wizarding War with the same enemy as you did before, when you lost family, of course, now that you have kids and a family to care for, these are things that are going to be running through your mind, and it makes her much more understandable.
And with half of her family currently in the order, and she mentions that Percy's still not speaking to them, and that's clearly weighed on the family, specifically weighed on the parents. And like you just illustrated with her brothers, she's lost already. Like she's already lost a lot. And the glimpse inside Molly's head here is just so fascinating, because we get the big blow up of, Sirius and Molly. We get the push and pull on Harry, and they've both lost a lot. They both lost so much, and they both care so much for Harry. Like I said earlier, this book as a whole is just fascinating for the psychological breakdowns, and you get one here in Molly that I love. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it just goes even further to show, like, if you didn't think Molly was an incredible mother already and had enough motherliness to her, even more so here in this moment. Like her greatest fear is not like her own death, but it's her family, her family. And I love that. So Lupin, Sirius, and Moody, they come in. Lupin deals with the boggart. And my next note here, Dan, is Lupin does both a really good and really bad job at comforting her. And I say this because half of what he says is like really good stuff of, you know, we would take care of your kids. We're much and we're much better prepared this time, like hitting her with logic and, you know, but things that are actually comforting. But the other half of what he says is like, pull yourself together, woman. Like just stop it. Not here. Don't do this now, Molly. And I can understand, like, of course, time and a place for that. But it just was funny to me, especially in the audiobook, when I went through that particular section, hearing the voice. What'd you say?
Surprised he didn't give her chocolate, just like a pull her out of nowhere and just like give it to her.
That's a good point. He had chocolate on him constantly in book 3. I didn't even think about that.
But still, come on, it's chocolate. Makes everybody feel better.
Yeah, it would have been a great thing here in this moment. The other thing that I never caught reading this book before was, so while Lupin is comforting Molly, you know, Harry looks over at Sirius and Mad Eye, and Sirius, his eyes were stuck to the spot where dead Harry just was on the floor, and he's not reacting at all. I never caught that before, but of course that's like something traumatic for him to see, because probably the person he feels called to protect and care for the most in this world is Harry. And so maybe in that moment, him and Molly shared a boggart, like something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at that moment they realize, like, oh wait, we both really, really care for him, and that's where all other stuff is coming from. And if that's where it's all coming from, well, at least it's a good place, not like just a animosity driven thing.
We have the same goal. We're on the same team. So,
Right.
I like that. So anyway, Harry heads back up to his room, and I have more that I want to say about the end of the chapter, but that'll be my favorite lines. So that's the end of the chapter. Yay! Moving on now, dear listeners. A wonderful one. Wonderful. Moving on now, dear listeners, to our favorite lines, which, as is easily said, our favorite lines of the chapter. So, Dan, I have a whole lot, so I don't want to steal any from you. So whatever you have, just rattle them off, and then I'll say mine.
I have a few as well, actually. So I'm sure we overlap. But the first one is a really quick one, so I'll get out of the way first. When Molly comes in and takes note of everything that she needs to get for supplies and stuff, she says, "Ron, I'll have to get you more pajamas. These are at least 6 inches too short." And I'm thinking, is Ron Victor Wembanyama all of a sudden? Like, 6 inches is a lot. Like, that's a significant amount of growth.
I thought about that, but to be fair, it made me remember in book 4 when Harry is mad at him, and in the common room, whenever Ron interrupts the fire phone call with Sirius, one of Harry's thoughts is he hated everything about Ron, all the way down to the few inches of bare ankle at the bottom of his pajama pants. So not all 6 inches happened in these 2 or 3 months of the summer, but definitely a good bit of them.
That is a lot. 6 inches is not insignificant.
No, it's not, Dan. No, it's not.
I'll go into something that we've already kind of briefly touched on as far as Harry's self-reflection on what his thoughts and emotions were. But I'll just read you the specific passage that caught me. Ron had not asked Dumbledore to give him the prefect badge. This was not Ron's fault. Was he, Harry, Ron's best friend in the world, going sulk because he didn't have a badge? Laugh with the twirling behind Ron's back, ruin this for Ron, when for the first time he had beaten Harry at something. And again, in the moment when you're feeling jealous, or you're caught up in all of the emotions, it's really hard to just be like, whoa, timeout. Why am I even thinking this? Let's back it down a notch and just look at the facts. Why am I mad at my best friend for this? And I think it's such a growth from Harry generally, but it's also a growth from Harry just in the first couple of chapters of this book, where he comes in hot at Grimmauld Place. And I don't think Harry gets enough credit for stuff like that. He just gets labeled this angsty, moody, irrational teenager. And he has moments where he's like, nope, wait, time out. I'm wrong. And this is a good example of it. So I want to give Harry some shout out there. And then I have one
Well,
Pseudo-
before you move on to your next
Yeah.
one, I that was also one of my favorites. I love that part so much. Uh, like you said, it speaks just to the growth that he's experienced in just a few chapters of, now that he's, and also like what a salve it is, what a healing thing it is to be around your friends again. Cause he was isolated before, and that led him to these moments of almost unfair frustration at everybody. Um, but now that he's back with now that he has community again, being able to handle these emotions better. And then one of the things that I try to practice in my own life, I'm not always the best at it, listeners, but one of the things that I really like is, as Dan said, when you are experiencing these intense emotions and these feelings of either fear or anger, to be able to stop and process. And the way I kind of phrase it to some of my friends, and I'm a youth pastor, and so sometimes I phrase it like this to my students, is speak truth to your emotions and have like truth lead you to new emotions. And so in the same way, where Harry, he's angry, but then he goes, but hold on a minute. Am I going to be mad at Ron, who didn't ask for this and who also never gets attention? So yeah, love that for all the reasons you said, and those as well.
Yeah, it's just a great section of the book and the series. The last one I'll give is just something that caught me for the first time while reading this, and I've read this book a lot. So, and that's another thing I love about the series is that you keep rereading it and you always find something new.
Mm-hmm.
And what caught me this time was Harry's impressions of the atrium statues, and specifically saying that they looked weak and foolish. The witch looked like a vapid beauty contestant. The goblins and the centaurs had this overly soppy look at the humans, and then the house elf was serving, and that was actually realistic. And it just caught me as such an odd thing to include and make note of, that Harry has noticed this. Harry's observed this. And I just wanted to get your 2 cents really on what you think that might mean, or what that might mean for Harry, or what that might mean for the Ministry of Magic, Wizarding World as a whole. I just want to get your 2 cents on it, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, there's as you just kind of laid out, there's different layers to it of what it means for different spheres. For Harry, it's him noticing, I guess, the biases in the wizarding world. The fact that the only one that they seem to get right, as far as like from Harry's experience, was the house elf. And what that kind of says to me about the ministry is they view all these other races as kind of like house elves, as these people who they're in control of, over top of, and dominant of. The only one that they have a correct perspective on is the one that is a servant to them. And they also throw that assumption onto, at least in my estimation, onto these other races as well. The wizard looking weak, and the woman looking like, and the witch looking vapid, I think that just kind of speaks to that might be less of a ministry thing and more of a JK thing, telling us they're actually kind of foolish, both wizards, and how they treat everybody and how they view themselves. I guess that's kind of where I arrived to it. But what do you think?
Like pulling it out a little bit?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I could see that. I'm surprised they even just included the house elf in the sculpture to begin with.
That's a good point. I think, is it like beings of or is it like creatures who have like the being status, I guess?
Yeah. So we started recording some of the Fantastic Beasts stuff for our podcast already.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a whole section on beast, being, or spirit, and how you differentiate that. And I did think of that too. It's like, okay, goblins and centaurs and house elves all have near or equal to human intelligence. They have language. They have everything else. But centaurs are technically a beast.
They refused it.
They refused it. Mer people are also included in that. And I don't believe that was mentioned here. So no mention of the Mer people whatsoever, which is interesting. So yeah, it's just an interesting kind of dynamic of what they choose to include and not include. Obviously, centaurs and goblins are not exactly well liked in wizarding worlds, so making them look subservient is kind of like I guess, an easy insult when they're not even there to defend themselves in the
It's like
ministry.
taxation without representation.
A little bit, yeah. But there's a lot there, and as you go through the secondary books, you learn that the as Professor Binns will tell you, the goblin wizard history is real messy. So there's all of that. But
Yeah,
it's
it's like it's almost like an attempt by the ministry to include them, as part of like, hey, we're all on friendly terms, right? You're still below us, but we're all on friendly terms, I guess is kind of maybe
I guess what
the
stuck out to me was the wizard looking weak and foolish mostly. And I do like your take on it, where it might be just more of a meta thing, just pulling it out and being very commenting on the wizarding world as a whole from her perspective.
yeah, because I doubt that the ministry would intentionally make their wizard look
Exactly.
foolish,
Mhm.
Or yeah. So that's what I have to say on that one. Did you have another one? Any more favorite lines?
Nope, those were the big three that I took away.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me see which ones that we've said that either you didn't or haven't been. Again, that even though I just said that, one of my favorite lines of the whole chapter was, "So you think he's touched in the head?" said Harry heatedly. "No, I just think he's been very lonely for a very long time," said Hermione simply. And I said it a lot already in the coverage of that particular point, but I just liked how fair of a statement that was. Even though Molly, or I would consider Hermione as Team Molly in a lot of these interactions, but what a fair statement I think that is, and a great observation. I did think it was really funny. One of the more humorous lines of the chapter is when Moody finds out that Ron is a prefect. He says, "Well, congratulations. Authority figures always attract trouble, but I suppose Dumbledore thinks you can withstand most major jinxes, or he wouldn't have appointed you." Ron looked rather startled at this view of the matter, but was saved the trouble of responding by the arrival of his father and eldest brother. Again, as we talked about with Moody being very warlike, or a veteran of war, having that perspective on it. And Ron's
Yeah,
like,
for Moody, yeah.
yeah, he's like, sure, I guess.
Hey, Moody brand, and he is going to stick to that brand as best as he can. So
Another favorite line of mine, when Harry is looking at the photograph of all of the wizards in the First Order, Harry's stomach, already uncomfortable, clenched as he looked at Alice Longbottom. He knew her round, friendly face very well, even though he had never met her, because she was the image of her son, Neville. And I just thought that was a cool, like a very significant and weighty line. And he's just like, I didn't even have to meet her. She looks just like her son. And the emotional weight of it's hard to put into words how cool of a line I find that to be and what it means. But just, I feel like Harry's heart is breaking in that moment for Neville and for what his parents went through. And so I really enjoyed that one.
do you think Neville has seen that picture, or do you think his grandmother would have that picture?
I would like to think so, especially with how proud his grandmother is of the family. Like, look at what they were a part of. You
Right.
know. Two more favorite lines. I liked Molly said at the last thing we hear from Molly in this chapter, she goes, "Being silly," she muttered again, mopping her eyes. But Harry, closing his bedroom door behind him some 10 minutes later, could not think Mrs. Weasley silly. Uh, I She's trying to dismiss it, and Harry's like internal monologue, and he just thinks, no, that's not a silly thing to be worried about. That's a perfectly reasonable fear to have. And I like Harry recognizing that. And then the final one that I want to just spend a moment on, I love this so much because this summarizes the whole arc of the chapter, but the very last paragraph of the chapter. Harry ignored it. He felt older than he had ever felt in his life, and it seemed extraordinary to him that barely an hour ago he had been worried about a joke shop and who had gotten a prefect's badge. So I love that moment so much because he's still a teenager. He's still just a boy. As much as like Sirius might argue against it, and as much as Molly claims, he's still just a boy. And he has these moments of wanting to live in high school, and wanting to have that normal life. And he gets these high school issues that pop up. Oh, I didn't get to be prefect. Oh, and the other one, yeah. Oh, somebody might find out that I helped my friends with the joke shop. But Harry's story is that of always like being forced to mature, being forced to do more than anybody his age should be asked to, and being shown supreme real world issues. And so for him to take this arc of being frustrated about things that, are very real to him, but also, as Molly said, being silly, in the grand scheme of things, this seems kind of silly that I was upset about these when there's a war going on and people's lives are at stake. But that's kind of what I thought. What do you think of that ending, Dan?
Well, I mean, just kind of piggyback onto that, this being a war, I think you're seeing a shift here in the series. And I think this chapter does really vault that narrative forward of like, no, this is serious. This is a problem. I don't think you guys really realize what you want to be a part of. Like the adults realize, obviously, but the Harry came in hot wanting to be in that Order of the Phoenix meeting. Well, that rundown that Moody just gave, if I'm not mistaken, 22 members were shown there. 9 of them died in that first Wizarding War. 2 of them were permanently injured. So that's half of that photograph gone, essentially. But Moody's making a big point of it, like, oh, this person was so brave, it took, 5 Death Eaters to take them out. Volga came for this one specifically, and he's making this, big grand gesture about that first Wizarding War, and it's showing you that transition to, no, this is more serious now. This is definitely, there are definitely stakes. There's definitely a cost that can be applied. And you see it again with Molly at the end being like, I see them dead all the time. I see my family dead all the time. She's seen that done with her. And it's really driving home that message. It's a really dark way to kind of end this chapter, which is why Harry reflects on it like, man, what was I worried about before? Like, well, it's crazy. It's a really cool transition.
Yeah, I liked, right at the beginning of what you were saying, that how it's a meta statement about the turning point in the series. We're getting a whole lot of that at the end of book 4, beginning of book 5, the shift in the series, in that, yeah, we can still have fun in the wizarding world, but don't forget, dear reader, there is a war going on now. There is, as you said, there's stakes involved. So I like that meta commentary on that.
Yeah, Lucan's like, it's not going to be like last time. We're more prepared. We're better. Like, yeah, we might get hurt and there might be some losses, but it'll be better. And that's kind of like the hope that he kind of tries to inject. But it's tough. It's tough.
Who's to say? But moving on now, dear listeners, to our transfigurations. And so these are differences that the movies made from the books. Dan, as you are probably well aware of, in this particular chapter, there's not a whole lot because it's just a big omission. I think really from the end of the trial, what takes, like, they go straight to heading to the Hogwarts Express. There's not much time spent at Grimmauld Place, even in the movie. But so most of it is omitted, as I said. There is no mention of prefects. It doesn't talk about at all in the movie who became prefect and who didn't. It doesn't talk about, there's no mention of the boggart that's hanging up there, even when they're at Grimmauld Place. So all that is gone. Really, the only transfiguration that I could think of for this particular chapter, and it bleeds into the next one, is that Mad-Eye Moody does not show Harry the picture of the Order of the Phoenix in the movie. In the movie, Sirius Black shows him the picture, and that is when they're at the train station already. It doesn't take place at Grimmauld Place. So other than that, and then I guess more to say on that then, just to finish it out, Harry doesn't seem deeply bothered and made uncomfortable by it, because it kind of plays out in the movie the way that Mad Eye wanted it to take place in the book, as this like, they even play like soft music in the background, and Harry's looking at his parents like, oh, that's my family. I love them. And Sirius kind of has this dreamy, sentimental look on his face, not this gruff pointing at like, he died, he died, he died. And it is kind of I would describe it as a tender moment in the movie, whereas in the book it's more uncomfortable. So that's about it, I think.
What a shame to eliminate this chapter. Because obviously we've spent a lot of time now talking about how we both really enjoyed it. But I'm hoping that the upcoming show seems to, even though we've only seen the trailer at this point, have a little darker, a little bit more adult vibe. Just the vision of it seems a little bit more adult. So I'm hoping that it does really well. And I'm hoping that it gets to the point where we get to book 5 and they can have these kind of conversations in a meaningful way. And I think that'd be so cool to actually see played out in live action.
Yeah, that seems to be the cry of all of us Potter podcasters when we get to our favorite parts in the book. I really hope that they include this in the TV show. Fingers crossed.
I'm hoping.
We'll take a count and see how many we got. But moving on now, dear listeners, to our Golden Snitch section. And this is the part of the podcast where we talk about some deep cuts. If you're reading the chapter, some extra lore tids and bits that you might not have known about or picked up on in your first read, or like extra world things that just might have been mentioned very briefly in the chapter. So one of them, the first one that I wanted to bring up was Wilbert Slinkhard. And so Wilbert Slinkhard being the guy who wrote that one book, what was it called? Defensive Magical Theory. And it's the book that they're assigned this year in Defense Against the Dark Arts class. If I'm being honest, there's not much known about him other than some things we'll get into later in the book, as far as his, he preferred more of a hands-off method when it came to Defense Against the Dark Arts. And, he didn't like the term counter jinxes, because he was like, that's just a softening of the name. But we'll talk about more about that in later chapters. The thing I did find somewhat interesting is that there is another Slinkhard that attends Hogwarts. And so if you look at the Harry Potter wiki, it says that this person might have been his sister. And so Wendy Slinkhard was a member of the Slug Club. And so if you haven't read ahead, you don't know about this. But Wendy Slinkhard was a member of the Slug Club, a British witch who wrote at least one book. She studied under Horace Slughorn. And he has a picture of her signing a book for him. And so that's really all I got when it came to this particular guy. Yeah. Moving on, though, to the next one, we have Narlquills. And so, as you have mentioned, you are going through the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book. You might have come across the Gnarl in that book. But Gnarls, being a magical creature, Narlquills were sharp spines, which covered the Gnarl, a magical beast which heavily resembled a hedgehog. They could be used as ingredients in the brewing of certain potion ingredients. The famous potioneer Zygmunt Budge used Narlquills in his development and brewing of the Laughing Potion, a potion he himself invented sometime in or after the 16th century. And the rest of it is just stuff that's mentioned in this chapter, how Fred and George wanted to use them. So if you wanted to make a Laughing Potion, you need some Narlquills. And maybe that's what Fred and George might have also used them for in their box. The only other one I wanted to mention is that there is a callback to book 4 when Fred and George mention to Molly, like, you don't need to get him new dress robes. We, talking about Ron, we already got him those. And if listeners remember, when Harry gave them the Triwizard winnings, he said, this is all yours. Use it for your joke shop. However, my only request is that you buy Ron some new dress robes. And I like that was just briefly mentioned here in this chapter. But that's all we got for Golden Snitches. About to move on to chapter 10. Dan, do you need to take a break?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Let me take a sip of this. All right. Chapter 10, Luna Lovegood. Harry is awoken from a nightmare. And my note is, Ron really let Harry sleep in, huh? Like, I felt like unwisely so.
Let them sleep in. Can you believe Molly let them sleep in this much?
Well, true, absolutely. But I was like, Ron, you were not a bro in this incident because the whole house is rushing and all up in a tizzy. Ron's already dressed, and there's been a commotion going on for what I assume to have been at least a few minutes. And he didn't think when all this was going on to wake Harry up a little bit earlier. He was just like, let me have my coffee first. It's kind of like the vibe that it gave me. Anyway, the house is, like I said, in a bit of an uproar because they are a bit behind schedule. Fred and George decked Ginny with their trunks. They tried to, as they are of age now, they can use magic outside the school. They tried to levitate their trunks when really all they did was just take out Ginny from 2 floors up. But don't worry, she's all right. Harry asks, "Hey, is she okay?" Hermione comes in and says, "Yeah, don't worry about it. We got a new problem. Your guard is short a person." And he's like, "My guard? I didn't ask for this." And she goes, "I know you didn't ask, but it's a problem anyway." Because Sturgis Podmore isn't there. I also thought Sturgis might have come up in your Quizzitch questions, so I was prepared. But more on him in the restricted section, because I got some things to say there. But as they're rolling out, Sirius is like, "You can't stop me, Molly. I'm rolling with you." He takes his dog form and he goes along to the train station with them. When they walk out, Harry goes, "Where's Tonks?" And I think I've made a Mrs. Doubtfire joke in our last episode, Dan, but she's like an old lady in her old lady form, and she just, "Oh, hello, dears," just waiting for them at the corner. I mean, she really says, "Watch her, Harry," which is her famous line, but so she escorts them to the train station, to platform 9 3/4. As always, it's really funny to me that they just like so nonchalant lean into the platform. And I'm always like, how do the muggles not notice these constant disappearances? The answer, listeners, it's magic. That's why. But they board the train safely. Molly tells them to write if they need something. My question though, Dan, was where do they send the letters? I feel like they're not allowed to send them to the headquarters, but the Weasleys aren't staying at home. Maybe they have a P.O. box.
I did actually think about that with everybody being Acromole Place. What is the state of the borough right now? Are the gnomes just taking over?
the ghoul in the attic is in charge right now.
Ghoul's hosting like a party or whatever. The gnomes are having their way with everything. I did think about that. I'm like, man, no one's at the borough.
Maybe Bill teaching Fleur some English. All right, he needed a private place to do that, and he has run of the house right now.
I like it.
Perhaps. But Molly breaks up the hug with Sirius. Oh, I hated that moment, because Sirius in his dog form jumps up, puts his paws on Harry. And, she says, act more like a dog. But you know what? I've trained my dog to do that, listeners. All right, he can put his paws on my shoulders. So I'm just saying, he's just a very well-behaved dog. Yeah, he chases cats and stuff, but he's still very well-behaved. And I also really like the moment where he chases the train, barking and jumping, and all the people on the platform are laughing. Super sweet moment. Anyway, once they left the station, Harry goes, "All right, y'all, time to find a compartment." And Ron and Hermione like, "Oof, about that, bud. We got some cool prefect stuff to go to." Ron's like, Ron can't even look at him in this moment. It says he's looking at his fingernails. And he's like, "We don't, it'd probably be stupid, Harry. We don't even want to go." But he wants to go. So
something they should have probably told him ahead of time.
Yeah.
But communication issues have been a running theme early in this book. So
yeah. So they leave, and Harry heads off with Ginny. People keep staring at him from their compartments, but that's par for the course. That happens to him pretty much every year. They're like, try at least except the second year because, well, he didn't ride the train that year. Anyway, they meet Neville, who's like, there's nowhere to sit. And Ginny says, don't be silly. There's room next to Looney Lovegood in this last compartment. And we get a Luna description. And, you know, it talks about like I think like her eyes always look like they have a tone of surprise or something to them. My favorite part is the butterbeer necklace that she's wearing because I freaking love butterbeer. Dan, I feel like Luna is a character you like. Is she one of your top characters, you might say?
Yeah, I love Luna. I don't know anybody that doesn't love Luna, actually.
That's it. Yeah. What I've come to hear now a lot of times when I listen to people podcast about Harry Potter or mention Luna is they'll very often say, yeah, Luna might be made fun of in her time, but if Luna was a high school student now, she'd be one of the cool kids. Like that's kind of the vibe that she gives off and like what is in our culture now. But yeah, I love Luna as well. They join her and they just start chatting. I really enjoyed the moment where she goes, "You're Harry Potter." And he says, "I know I am." You know, Neville laughs. And then even better, she goes, "I don't know who you are," talking to Neville. And he goes, "I'm nobody, really. It's not that important."
I like Ginny there too. Ginny's like, stop it. You're Neville Longbottom. Like, stop
Yeah.
that negative
You are
self.
my date to the Yule Ball. All right. Don't diminish yourself. Neville lost his remembrall. Poor guy. He tends to do that all the time. Good news, though. He did get a Mimbulus Mimbletonia for his birthday. So my next note is why Neville didn't just explain the defense mechanism is baffling. Like, I know he says, I didn't expect it to be that extreme, but as you know, listeners, what happens is Harry says, does it do anything? And he goes, yeah, watch this. And he pokes it with a quill and it just shoots this like pus all over the compartment. It makes the note of Ginny was able to cover her face, so it looks like she's just wearing a green hat. But Harry, who had his hands full of Trevor, gets a full blast and is just completely covered. And I really like the moment where Neville goes, "I don't think it's poisonous," and as Harry's spitting it out onto the floor, like, you should be all right. And it's perfect timing for Cho Chang to walk in. And it gave me like very rom-com or like a high school Nickelodeon show vibes, TV show moment where she's just like, "Oh, was this a bad moment?" And, you know, he's just spitting out more pus like, "It might have been." Harry has a mean yet relatable thought about his uncool friends. So, you know, as she leaves, he leans back in the chair and he gives like that sigh and he just thinks, man, I wish if she were to have seen me, it would have been like with some cool people as I just told a really funny joke, not with Neville and Luna and all of us covered in pus. And again, very mean thought, but as a high school boy, still maturing, somewhat relatable of if my crush were to have caught me, I wish it would have been like right when I won the sports game or something, you know? So it is funny. Oh, my next note was any chance she thought they were having fun though? You know, when she walks in and just sees, she could have thought, what am I missing out on? Looks like they're having a good time, you know, minus the stinky smell. So perhaps.
Ginny's probably got a pretty positive reputation at this point. And then, well, she probably knows Luna pretty well, being both Ravenclaws. So
yeah,
it's an interesting little dynamic, I suppose.
So Ginny cleans it all up pretty quickly with the Scourgify. An hour later, Hermione and Ron finally arrive and they talk about all the other new prefects. Dan, I thought that would have been your Quizzitch question was like, name all the new prefects.
I wasn't going to say name all of them. I was thinking about asking you Ravenclaws specifically because I felt like that was the hardest of the houses.
Yeah. So we got Anthony Goldstein.
Yep.
And
it's about.
Oh, and I always forget which one's in Ravenclaw versus which one's in Gryffindor. So let's go with Padma Patil.
Padma it is.
Yes. Very good. Good job, me. Anyway, they talk about all the new prefects. And I really just thought, like, does Malfoy deserve it? You know, I know Dumbledore picks the prefects. Do you think of all the Slytherins, Malfoy deserves it?
Yeah. Primarily because, I'm sure he's a good student. I'm sure he's like actually good
It's
with.
implied that he's just below Hermione,
Right.
in grades.
So he's a smart kid, and then he's very clearly, whether it's because of his father and his father's status or not, but he does seem to lead them like a flock of Slytherins almost.
Yeah,
So he's like the clear choice.
fair enough.
Pansy, maybe not. There's got to be a better option, but we don't know enough of them to really
Yeah,
like.
the only other named girl I think is Millicent
Yeah.
Bulstrode, and she's just a brute, who
Maybe they're going like the whole popular route. Pansy's a popular Slytherin, I guess.
could be.
Draco is a solid lock though, just because of circumstance, I suppose.
Yeah. When they mention Padma, Luna is like, "Oh yeah, Ron, you were a crappy date." Talking about the Yule Ball last year. Although she does say, however, I think I could have been happy as your date. Like that's essentially what she implies because she's like, I don't like dancing, which is funny to me because, like, spoiler, in a later book, she's breaking it down on the dance floor.
It's true. I do have a question for you here, and this is something that struck me on this read for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
Is Luna flirting with Ron a little bit?
I think she is maybe kind of unintentionally caught off guard by how much she likes him.
Maybe.
Because she only had this impression of whoever he was from Padma, but then whenever they get to the joke and she's like, "Oh wow, he's actually really funny," and then hysterical laughing, and she also offers to carry his owl.
Yes.
All right, she's like, "I got your owl for you." I didn't think about it, but yeah, she might be trying to weasel her way into Weaselby. That's a good catch.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm getting that vibe from Luna randomly, and this is the first time I've ever gotten that. So who knew?
Yeah. Listeners, write in. What do you think? But she laughs very hard at his joke, as we mentioned. I like that everybody laughs at Ron's reaction to that. Like that's what keeps it going. Again, in the new audiobook, really funny moment where you get to hear all of this going on. But she ends up dropping her copy of the Quibbler, and it catches Harry's attention. I thought he was a little bit overdramatic though, because it said he dives for it. And you're like, "Oh, shoot." And he grabs her. It's like, you could have been a little more chill, Harry. But he asks if he can take a look at it, and he sees the Sirius article. I did note there was a cool illustration of what he assumes is Sirius standing on top of a pile of bones. But I love this article, which basically just says that Sirius, not as black as he seems, because it's got the little pun there, but talking about how he's actually Stubby Boardman, the lead singer of the Hobgoblins. All right, almost a Quizzitch question as well. My favorite part about that article is Mrs. Perkins being like, "It couldn't have been Sirius who killed all those muggles because he was busy rizzing me up that night." He was out on a romantic candlelit date with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a lot of joy out of that. Harry then reads the Fudge article about the goblins. There's one moment, like, Dan, something I have been doing a lot when I find it appropriate is a quick Donald Trump impersonation. And when a line read to me like that, where it's Cornelius Goblin Crusher Fudge, that's what his friends call him, Goblin Crusher, because that's said in the article.
It's appropriate.
Yep. And I also thought, is it a requirement that every Quibbler article include the phrase, "But does he?" Because at both times in all caps and in both articles Harry reads after the first paragraph, it'll set something up as like this innocent thing, and then it'll go, "But does he?"
Okay,
real gripping.
Word for my favorite lines. The "but does he" is one of my favorite lines. Just put that out there now.
But does he? Hermione disses the Quibbler, not knowing that Luna's dad is the editor. Another awkward moment for her in these sets of chapters where she's like, got to walk something back. Malfoy makes his usual appearance. He says, "I'll be dogging your footsteps," to Harry. And the funny part about that moment is, Harry and Hermione immediately register it as, oh shoot, he's saying something about Sirius potentially. And the text even says it went over Ron's head. Like he just goes, "Hey, you got any more chocolate frogs?" Doesn't even pick up on it. And as much as I guess I have mentioned it a lot on the podcast, Dan, I really enjoy these new audiobooks. They're a wonderful experience. Still a Jim Dale fan at my core. Love him to death. But I'm loving these new audiobooks. It's a fun new experience. And the voice acting for a lot of these characters, amazing. But one thing I didn't like was when the Malfoy voice actor delivered that line, he just said it so casually. I was expecting like a bit of an emphasis on the "I'll be dogging your footsteps," but he just goes, "I'll be dogging your footsteps." And it just goes on. And I was like, well, that seems like not how I ever read it once in my head.
Oh, is this like the whole calmly controversy from Goblet of Fire? Because they actually they italicize the word dogging in the text.
They do. And he doesn't accentuate it at all.
Yeah.
In the voice acting. But that's okay. He does a great job most everywhere else. The other thing I thought was that, okay, yeah, they don't want Draco to know more than he needs to know. However, I didn't think it was that big of a deal that Draco would know that Sirius could assume like I would assumed if I was Harry that Draco already knew. So I guess it didn't strike me as that big of a deal for Draco to be aware of that information.
Honestly, it hit me this time as just him making fun of the fact that Harry drew a lot of attention on the platform with a dog. I think he was just trying to make a joke at Harry's expense. I don't even know if he was alluding to the fact that Sirius is an animagus. I know that's the context of it around, and that's the fear, but I don't know. For some reason on this read, it just hit me as maybe Draco's just making another poor attempt at being funny.
Yeah.
Because
Patronus Potter.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It struck me that way for this read. Who knows?
So finally, they make it to Hogwarts, and Luna, she's trying to rizz up Ron, as we've discussed. She offers to carry Pigwidgeon, and that's just so sweet. Ron and Hermione go supervise all of the goings-on, people leaving their compartments and stuff. Harry notices that Hagrid isn't there. Instead, it's Professor Grubbly Plank. I'm a big Grubbly Plank fan. I love Grubbly Plank. I think she's a wonderful teacher. And there's another moment later in this book, really like that some stuff she did. Anyway, great character to me. But he's bummed out that Hagrid wasn't. What are we saying?
That's the strongest take on Grubbly Plank I think I've ever heard.
I love Grubbly Plank. I think one of the things I love the most about her is she treats Harry just like any other student. When like in book 4, when he's going, "Where's Hagrid?" And she's like, "You're a student. That's none of your business. Like, it's none of your business where Hagrid." I think that even happens again in this book. She's like, you're a student. The only thing you should be interested in is what's going on in class. And she's really good at what she does. So
I don't disagree. I was like, wow, I love Grubbly Plank. That's, I think, the first time I've ever heard someone say that. But yeah,
spoiler, she heals Hedwig later. And I love that a lot too. All right. It's got Hedwig's. And I like the way when she does it, I think she has like a pipe in her mouth and she's just like, "Let me take a look at him." I love that moment.
She's casually very competent. I feel like casual competency, which is nice.
She's like, she clocks in, does her job, clocks out. Yep. All right. I love it. But anyway, Harry's bummed out that Hagrid isn't there because, he was looking forward to seeing him. It is funny to me that he thinks maybe he just has a cold. And I'm like, Harry, he's a half giant. I doubt a cold would have like floored him and taken him out from being able to be there that night. Another unexpected thing, the horseless carriages are no longer horseless. And I thought that for somebody who's seeing this for the first time, Harry does a wonderful job of not freaking out. Because he just kind of, maybe Hogwarts has primed him to expect crazy things, but he kind of just sees them and he's like, rather than going, what the heck is that? He's kind of like, does anybody else notice this? Ron, what do you think of this? You know, I just appreciated his composure in these moments. But we see the horses, or what he says could only be described as perhaps a horse. But Ron can't see them. Luna can. And we get that famous line at the very end. I won't say it because it's probably in one of our favorite lines. But they all board the carriages. And that's the end of the chapter. Yay! Oh, also shout out whenever, now that you've said it, I'm constantly thinking about it. When Luna hands Pigwidgeon back, you know, she's complimenting him like, he's a lovely bird, isn't he?
Uh-huh.
You know, I'm on this train now.
Yep.
I'm on this train. I like it. But very good. That's the end of the chapter. Yay. Moving on now to our favorite lines. Dan, I only have two. For this particular chapter. But I'll go, we can bounce back and forth on this one. And so my very first one that I have is during the description of Luna, whenever they first sit with her, it says, the girl called Luna watched them over her upside-down magazine, which was called The Quibbler. She did not seem to need to blink as much as normal humans. She started and stared at Harry, who had taken the seat opposite her and now wished he had not. I just thought that was like the part of her, it's saying she didn't seem to need to blink that much, and Harry was regretting sitting there. So I found that humorous. But that's my first favorite line. What about you, Dan?
So to stick with the Quibbler theme, I'm not going to go through them all. I already mentioned the "but does he" lines. But all of the articles were hilarious, and I think really well written. And I just really enjoyed all of those little blurbs that they gave. The fudge article was funny. Obviously the serious article was funny. Even the little mini snippets that you get about the tornadoes, and all those kind of little mini articles. I just enjoyed reading those. Frankly, it was really fun to actually sit there and read them. And then really quick, the fudge and the goblins.
Goblin Crusher.
Yeah, they seem to have made Fudge go full Arya Stark because they say that he has goblins drowned, dropped off of buildings, poisoned, and cooked in pies. Which is, if you know Game of Thrones, spoiler, I guess, for Game of Thrones, Arya Stark dabbles in some baking at some point.
Dabbles in baking. That's right.
Dabbles in some baking. So I'm like, wow, they're making Fudge go full Arya Stark in this, which is, all right, that's a choice. Even though this came out, obviously, well, now I don't know if Game of Thrones was written before this or not. I don't know.
Well, so, I mean, that part where Arya does that last bit, isn't even written yet, you know?
Oh, that's true. That's a fair point.
I assume it'll be at the beginning of the next book, if the show is any indicator. The next book that may or may not come out. Come on, George. That's funny, Dan. I didn't know you were such a Game of Thrones fan. I need to have you on for because I want to cover Night of the Seven Kingdoms at some point.
Oh, I loved Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Such a good show. It
was so good. So good. I'm not going to cover House of the Dragon because it's a little too dark and inappropriate for my lovely Harry Potter podcast. But Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think that's great territory, which they already wrapped filming on, principal filming for season 2. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm very excited about that.
No, I'm excited to watch it because I love the show. So,
yeah, there's technically 9 kingdoms. Get up, Sir Duncan. Oh my good. I have so much I want to say about Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but that's not what this episode's about. Oh my goodness.
When this quote that you neglected at the end of it, the iconic quote. Luna.
So I'll get there, but the speaking of my other favorite line though, it was my favorite line at the very end. So here we are. Oh, yes, said Luna. I've been able to see them ever since my first day here. They've always pulled the carriages. Don't worry. You're just as sane as I am. iconic quote. It's on so much material, so much of the Wizarding World merchandise you can get. It really is such a wonderful like character line for Luna. What a wonderful introduction to this character.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I mean, this is the chapter where we get it, so it's a wonderful time to talk about it. But as far as how
the
to,
name. I mean,
uh,
that's like everything. Like it's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, for her characterization, for her introduction, I think it's one of the best introductions for a character. So I love Luna, love that moment. It's wonderful. But that's all my favorite lines. Did you have any more?
No, that was pretty much it.
Fantastic. So moving on now, dear listeners, to our transfigurations. Um, Again, as always, a lot of omissions. We don't get them struggling to get ready that morning at Grimmauld Place. There's no hustle and bustle. As I already mentioned, the Sirius and Harry, they have that exchange at the train with the photo rather than previously at Grimmauld Place. Um, Ron and Hermione like stick with Harry the whole time in the book, it seems, again, because there's no prefect mention. Sorry, in the movie, there's no prefect mention. Um, I don't think we really even get to see them riding the Hogwarts Express. We see them get off the Hogwarts Express, and there's a moment where Draco walks by them and kind of insults Harry, and Harry does like a fake at him, kind of steps forward and acts like he's going to hit him, and Ron has to hold him back. And Ron's like, "Yo, chill. It's just Draco. Like, it's just what he always doing." Um, so that is also a different moment. Hermione introduces Luna. So we don't see Luna on the train. They're boarding the carriages. Harry sees the horses, and Hermione is the one who, when Harry asks, "Do you guys see these things?" Instead of Ron going, "I don't see them," it's Hermione who says, "The carriage is pulling itself like it always does." So like in the book, we'll see later on, Hermione knows what Thestrals are, but in the movie, it's implied that she doesn't know what Thestrals are. But then getting to the main point of this is where they are introduced to Luna on top of the carriage rather than in the compartment. And Hermione says, "This is Loony Love." And then she catches herself, Luna Lovegood. Um, but just other than that, I think like the Luna description is very similar to in the book. I think the only difference would be Luna is a lot louder in the book. Like she's a lot more verbose, where she's a bit more reserved in the movie, the portrayal of the character. Oh, and the other thing, it's again, so many things in the movies are never explicitly stated whether or not it's a thing, but it's implied that Neville can't see Thestrals, where we come to find out that he can. In this particular scene, Neville is riding the carriage with them, and he doesn't comment on it at all either, or seems like he can see them. So he's holding his Mimbulus Mimbletonia, though. So we got that. But that is all of the transfigurations for this particular chapter. So moving on now, dear listeners, to our golden snitches. And the very first one, you could probably guess it from what I just said, the Mimbulus Mimbletonia. So the Mimbletonia was a very rare magical plant. Oh, page moved. Hold on. Very rare magical plant surmised to have originated where, Dan?
Assyria.
Assyria. It was most notable for its pulsating and squirming nature and its unique defense mechanism. When prodded, a substance called stink sap was squirted out from the boils on the surface of the plant. Stink sap was a non-poisonous liquid, so Neville got that right, and was described as dark green and smelling like rancid manure. Okay, so maybe when Cho walked in, she didn't think they're having fun. That probably answers it. As a seedling, it required ample light, excellent drainage, high temperatures, and low moisture for optimal growth. As a young sprout, it already showed signs of pulsating and squirming, accompanied by odd crooning noises when touched. During the flowering stage, its signature boils began to form and began to emit a strong stink. When the boils looked ready to burst, the plant had reached maturity or the fruiting stage. One had to exercise caution to avoid prodding them or else get stink sapped. Once the plant was in full bloom, the boils were harvested as a potion ingredient. And so the rest of the article talks a lot about what happens here. It's mentioned that I don't want to get into spoilers later on, but one of the things that talks about Hogwarts mystery often has a lot of the lore that is in these Harry Potter Wikipedia articles, but it contradicts canon. And here's one of the moments that it kind of contradicts canon. It talks about how in third year herbology in the 1986 to 1987 school year, Professor Sprout taught them about Mimbulus Mimbletoneus. But that doesn't make sense to me because one, Harry didn't learn about it in his third year. And two, Neville said he doubts that even Madame Sprout has one like in the herbology greenhouses. So I'm not buying it, Harry Potter Wiki, just so you know. But that's about all that we get for the. Actually, I did want to mention this. When the Mimbulus Mimbletonia bloomed, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but a certain professor later on has a blooming party to watch the blooming, and that sounds like a terrible party, like one I would not want to go to.
So I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is Neville the Hagrid of herbology?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Maybe not to that extreme, because I doubt he would be like, hey, students, let's play with this venomous tentacula. It's really misunderstood. I think he would show them a diagram of it and maybe keep them at a very safe distance. Whereas Hagrid would be like, clip the leaves from it.
I think he would teach him about it. He would just probably be wise enough to save it till the appropriate year in school.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rather than be like, third year, why not?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on now. The Quibbler is our second one. So it got mentioned in a previous chapter, but we get to hear much more about it in this particular one. So here you go, listeners. The moment you've all been waiting for, The Quibbler. Marketed as the Wizarding World's alternative voice, was a wizarding tabloid published and edited by Xenophilius Lovegood, father of Luna Lovegood. Fun fact, I don't know if you caught this. And so again, this is not any type of Game of Thrones podcast, but in House of the Dragon, Otto Hightower, played by the Xenophilius actor.
I
Anyway,
didn't catch that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But Luna gained every issue of the Quibbler when it was published, which often contributed to her eccentric beliefs. It published odd articles, including conspiracy theories and discussions of imaginary creatures. A few other things come to happen that I won't mention here. The publishing of the Quibbler started in the 80s. Let's see, what else could I say here that's worth saying? Etymology. To quibble is to avoid or to be vague. So therefore, a quibbler is one who avoids or is vague. Although I would not describe the Quibbler as a vague or avoiding tabloid. It's pretty on the nose and direct about what it's saying, and it goes kind of head on to some of the issues. The Quibbler is one of hundreds of props designed by graphic artist team Mina Lima. The website The Leaky Cauldron launched an online version of the Quibbler. All previously published issues can be accessed. If you were to go on to the Harry Potter Wiki, you could look at those. The hpfan.com website published their own Quibbler articles too. And the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Dervish and Bangs at Universal sells authentic Quibbler wallpapers and copies of it with added Spectre specs. And we get to learn more about those in later chapters. The Quibbler sells for 1/4 of a sickle. And in the Brazilian translation of the Harry Potter books published by Editoria Rocco, the Quibbler is translated as O Pasquium. And O Pasquium was also the title of a real Brazilian periodical, which was among the most well-known of the media sources to resist against the military dictatorship that ruled Brazil from 1964 to 1985. That's kind of cool. I read that in real time with you. I hadn't read that before. That's kind of cool.
Kind of dead on, which is kind of weird about the Quibbler. Yeah, it's pretty intentional. That's a stretch, though, that she I'm going to do this Brazilian translation.
I feel like, do you think she'd be in charge of the different translations?
Probably not. Yeah. I wouldn't imagine. That'd just all be the publishing company, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
But that is remarkable nonetheless.
Yeah. Worth mentioning. All right, and then last one, we have the Hobgoblins. The Hobgoblins were a popular Wizarding World band. According to the Quibbler, their lead singer Stubby Boardman retired after, this was almost a Quizzitch question, retired after being hit on the ear by a turnip, presumably in an act of bottling. I guess that's like throwing stuff on stage, like a tomato thing or whatever, at a concert at Little Norton Church Hall in 1980. And they are also mentioned in Hogwarts Mystery and the Magic Awakened phone games, which I mean, I'm so sad that Magic Awakened got like discontinued in the Americas, because that game looked so cool. The art style of it. I was really looking forward to playing that. But Asian listeners, it's free for you to play. It's still over. Servers are still operating over in the Asian countries. So good for you guys, I guess. Anyway, that's all the golden snitches we have. So now we'll be moving on, dear listeners, in just a second to our restricted section, which is the part of the episode where we get into spoilers for the rest of the series. So if you haven't read the rest of the series or don't know what happens, or you just don't care, then you probably need to leave now. But before you do, just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. Happy to have you here this week. Dan, if those listeners want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find us on any social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, at Hogwarts a Pod. We're also on YouTube, which is where we're going to run our stream of Hogwarts Legacy soon. And then if you are in town in Chicago for Fan Expo, we will be walking around talking to people about Harry Potter. So find us. We'll be there. It's a really cool experience. Like I said, James and Oliver Phelps are going to be there. So yeah, we're also going to be doing the Harry Potter trivia there as well. So it'll be fun.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, there you go, listeners. Hope to see you next week. All right, now time for the restricted section, the Department of Mysteries, dear listeners. So I had just two things to mention in the restricted section. One very easy one to mention. We know that the reason Hagrid is missing is because he's on his giant trip, with Olymp Maxime to go bring the giants into the fold of the Order and get them on their side before before the Death Eaters can get them. So that's really all I had to say on the Hagrid piece. But the one that I wanted to mention, and I talked about this in the episode, Sturgis Podmore being missing. So two things that get said that are kind of left in the air is Sturgis Podmore missing, and 2 times Harry Scar hurting. And it just kind of says like at one point Harry goes, "It's not uncommon these days." Like it just kind of happens now that Voldemort's on the loose. But I believe these are connected in that, like, we know the reason Sturgis is not there is because I think, doesn't Voldemort imperious him to try to touch the prophecy? Or yeah. And so it doesn't go well. And so I imagine those strong feelings from Voldemort with that failing is what causes Harry Scar to hurt. That's my theory on that. But
Sturgis is an interesting one because he is a veteran now of both Wizarding Wars. He technically participated in both. I think he ended up in Azkaban, if I'm not mistaken.
He does.
For trying to steal the prophecy. So he gets to kind of sit the second Wizarding War out, at least the bulk of it, in Azkaban. But yeah, he's technically a part of both, which is kind of cool. Not many really were able to do that. So
does he I don't know if we hear about him again. Does he recover his senses? Because you kind of lose your mind if you touch a prophecy.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever actually got that close, or I can't remember.
Yeah, it's been a minute for me as well.
Yeah, but as far as I'm aware, he survives the whole encounter. Like he ends up okay, I think, once he's let out of Azkaban. So
we'd like to hope so.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we get left with Sturgis. I'd like to know more about him. I mean, for him to be that kind of character that they trust him to be watching the Department of Mysteries on those rotations. Again, they'd come back to him for the second Wizarding War. He must be a pretty prodigious wizard.
Yeah, so one thing I looked up when I was looking at different members of the order, because sometimes I'll like post pictures of different things on Instagram based on what's mentioned in each chapter. For Sturgis, he's not even in the movie, nor is there any like official artwork. The only thing I could find is like this. It almost looks like a Picasso kind of art piece on him, where he looks very like he's blonde, looking very like football chattish, I guess that's a description you could give. But there's only like one kind of official picture of him, and it's a cartoon picture. So there's really not much about him at all. But other than that, that's all the restricted section stuff I really had. I didn't have much else to say. I mean, the only thing I guess to bring up is we also know that the reason that Harry is not a prefect is because Dumbledore tells him at the end of this book, like, I just thought you had too much on your plate. Like, I thought you had too much going on. And it's one of my favorite Dumbledore moments, because he and Harry have this very serious conversation, and the whole time, like, Dumbledore is composed. But when he gives that information to Harry, it's like, I forget exactly what the text says, but it says something like he tears up a little bit as he's imparting that information to Harry. Like, we just talked business, Harry, but to be personal, like, I wish I could have made you, but I really did it out of concern for you. And I hope that came across, is kind of the vibe I get in that moment with Harry. But that's all the restricted section stuff I have. Dan, did you have anything?
Not really. I just, with all the talk about the first Wizarding War members of the Order, I did try to piece together some of the second Wizarding War. It's a little vague because there's a lot of members that are in and out, and are some people actually members, or are some people just allies, or like, what exactly is the status of a lot of these characters? But I counted about 25 or 26 current members of the Order of the Phoenix at this point in time, 7 of whom ended up dying. And there were 2 disfigurements, with George and Bill being a little disfigured. Obviously, George with the ear, and Bill with the slight tendencies of werewolfism. But yeah, I think only 7 died. You had Moody, Lupin, Sirius. Vance ends up dying, Emmeline Vance, Albus, Snape, and Fred. Big spoilers there, sorry. The big spoilers. Yeah. I think
we're in that section.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they get I don't know if they ever brought her into the Order, but they also kill Madame Bones.
Yeah.
Her whole family was in the Order, so it makes sense that she might have joined after it came to light that
questionable ones. We're like, is she a member, or is she just an ally too? I don't know. She was a threat.
Yeah.
That was
yeah, I think Voldemort even killed her himself. So, as Sirius says, the world's not divided into Death Eaters and Order members? I forget. Death Eaters and non-Death Eaters. I ruined the quote. One of the most famous quotes from the series. It's fine. Well, that's all we got. So fantastic. Dan, thank you so much for joining this week. It was a pleasure to have you on.
It's been a pleasure. I love coming on here. It's always a great time. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hopefully one of these days we'll get you on for a Jeopardy episode.
That'd be cool.
But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you next week, where we cover chapters 11 and 12 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And it's a Founders episode where we will have all of the original founders of the Retold podcast coming back. Emily, Jonathan, Jesse. Sure to be a good time. But yeah, take care, everybody. Goodbye. And click. Thank you for listening to Retold. Artwork for this podcast was created by Rachel Ortlip. Music was created by Taylor Jarvis. And the Retold podcast is produced by me. That's right. I made this.